Hello, footy tippers. The second last week of Rugby League for 2013, and thanks to Centrebet.com, we're going to have a preview of the two preliminary finals with a man who's been there and done that, with the mighty Melbourne Storm, of course, in the grand final. So he knows what it's like to get there and how hard this week is going to be. Noddy, first up, South Manly on Friday night.
Well, you talk about South Sydney from last year. I got beaten 2 grand final qualifiers, and they're the most empty feeling you get because you actually start to believe you can win the comp. South Sydney got knocked out this game last year after leading because Adam Reynolds did a hamstring against Canterbury. They've got that motivation to not fail again. Their physicality between them and Manly, they'll combat each other out. It'll be a super aggressive game. Both have got problems on their edges. Both are very vulnerable defensively on the edge. Isaac Luke will help the South Sydney forward pack get over the advantage line. Greg Inglis being super fit, that's the key to probably South Sydney's execution of their plays. Adam Reynolds' kicking game will be the difference because Daly Cherry Evans is brilliant. Yeah. Brett Stewart doesn't play, they can't win. The 2 weeks,
I keep coming back to the physicality of the last fortnight for Manly, and South have had a week off and just let them bash each other up last week. You know, going back 2 weeks, that Roosters-Manly game, it's got to count for something that South have had the week off.
Well, I think you got Melbourne Storm. That cost them the victory last week because they were starting each week a bit slower every game because for the 26 weeks, people want to beat Melbourne. So they've had to play 26 grand finals. They've been in the World Cup. Manly are going to go through that, I think, this week. They're going to physically, they'll be drained, and you've got the biggest side in the competition, South Sydney, who plays super flat and super quick at you over the advantage line, that if you're a little bit off, you do get worn down by South Sydney. And that's the coaching style of Michael Maguire.
Can Manly come from behind or they got to lead? I know South can sort of come from behind. They've done that, but they've also led and faltered. But Manly a team that needs to get in front?
I think if Manly get in front, South Sydney will become very nervous.
Yes.
And what South Sydney and the Roosters, their strengths are their structure, but also their weaknesses are inability to play catch-up football because they rely on their processes and their set play. So if Manly are able to get in front, it'll be a hell of a game whether they can hang on. But if South Sydney are in front, you'll see a dominant South Sydney just kick you to death, wear you to death, and use their physicality. And I think South will be the first side into the grand final.
Well, who will be the second, Sydney or the Newcastle Knights? The Knights have had that dream run, but you get the feeling that it's going to end, and it might end this week.
I don't enjoy that feeling, Rusty.
Yeah?
I rode Newcastle to victory last week. You criticised me about Supercoach Wayne Bennett. If you talk about milestones and superstars, Danny Badiris is one of them for Newcastle.
Yes.
Steve Menzies had the fairy tale a few years ago when they beat Melbourne 40-0. The Queenslanders have rode on the back of Darren Lockyer's farewell a couple of years ago. Petros. Motivation to players is enormous. They want to send Danny Badiris out on a high. So Wayne Bennett is the super coach that knows all about semi-final football. This is 57th semi-final he's coached. Trent Robinson, rookie coach. They've had 2 weeks off. They've had a lull. They've had a lay. They'll be super fresh, but you just wonder about their rhythm being a bit off. Newcastle will defensively put them under pressure like they did to Melbourne. And I think we will ride the emotion of Newcastle because there's always some side that makes a run. And I'm saying this year Newcastle is going to make their run.
Well, there you go. The grand final, according to Brett Kimmorley, will be between Souths and Newcastle. I tend to disagree. I think the Souths and the Roosters will be there. We'll find out whether we're right. One of us will be. One of us will be wrong. We might both be wrong when we come back next week and preview the grand final. Thanks to Centrebet.com, where there are over 200 markets on each of this week's preliminary finals.